Whether you use power tools or hand tools, every woodworker needs a sharp chisel. But how do we make it sharp? Well, to show you, I need a dull chisel. That's a dull chisel, because this is a piece of steel. I firmly believe that you don't have to have the most expensive chisels in the world. Mine aren't. Mine are pretty good. I would say they're in the middle. I have a bunch of Narex chisels, and these have gotten a little bit more expensive over the years since I bought them. But I can see that this one has definitely seen better days. If I can put my finger like this across it, that is a really, really dull chisel. Let's fix it. First thing I'm gonna do is slide over my sharpening station. You don't have to have one of these. I find it really convenient because I've got a piece of granite here on top, and then I have a drawer that has all of my stuff in it. First, we got to figure out what sharpening method we want. We can go with Waterstones or we can go with diamond stones, and there's pluses and minuses for each one, but I'm going to show you both of them here, so you get to pick. All right, let's start with wet stones. I'll show you what I do for wet stones. Now, what I have in front of me are 3 different wet stones, and then a lapping stone, and then a jig here to help me keep all the stones where they're supposed to be at. This one right here has double gritted. So we have a 1000 grit stone here on this side. You flip it over, the white part is 4000 grit. Then I've got this guy. This is my 8000 grit water stone. Then I have this. This is a diamond plate that is super, super coarse. We're gonna need that. And then I've got a jig here. That makes it so that I can put my water stone in my jig and then tighten it down so it doesn't go all wobbly all over the place. So that is one method. The other method is using diamond stones. So to do that, I have 3 steel plates that have a diamond coating on the top of them. These are called diamond stones. Specifically, these are DMT Dia Sharp stones. First, I have a fine stone. This one's about 600 grit. It's pretty rough. Next, I have an extra sharp stone or extra fine stone. This one is about 1200 grit. And then we jump up to the extra fine stone. This is about 8000 grit. Kind of a big jump. You could probably find some in between, just saying, kind of a big jump. You could also use a sharpening jig like I had with the whetstones. I'll sometimes use this one too. If I don't use the jig, you can get a mat here, like a non-slid mat that you can put your stone on top of. I find it still slips just a little bit, but definitely works. You do not want to put one of these stones or any of these stones on just a flat surface because it will go all over the place. It doesn't matter if it's a whetstone or a diamond stone. Don't do that. I also like to have a really flat surface. In this case, this is a piece of granite that I use, and it's just a thick granite tile. It's about 1/4 inch thick. I got it from a home center, and it cost me $5, but it's dead flat. It is not imperative to have a dead flat surface if you're using these stones because, well, they're already flat. But if you do want to go with a different method, like scary sharp method, that is whenever you use sandpaper instead of any of these, you're gonna want it flat. There's another key to all this that is completely optional, but I don't find it optional. I find it a necessity, and that is having a sharpening jig. I've had this Veritas one for years and years and years. You can definitely find more modern looking ones out on the market for a decent price. Doesn't matter which one you pick, just make sure that it can hold the size chisel that you need. Let's sharpen this guy up. First, we'll start with the diamond stones. I'll walk you through that process till this guy is razor sharp. Then I'm gonna dull them again. We're gonna do it again with water stones so you can see a side-by-side comparison. You can pick the method that works best for you. The first thing I do when I get a new chisel is I need to flatten the back of it. I want to have a solid, flat surface on the bottom of this chisel so I can make sure that my chisel is not gouging into my workpiece. Now, whenever we do this, we do not need to flatten the entire thing. That's a whole lot of material to remove. We just need to make sure that we flatten a good amount to it. Shouldn't it come already flattened? Well, yeah, the better the quality chisel, usually the flatter it's gonna be on the back, but it's really not that big of a deal to do it ourselves. So check it out, this is how we do it. Got my fine stone, 600 grit, and I've got a bottle of water. You could also use a Windex, that works really well. Just spray a little bit of water on this guy. Take my chisel and I am going to lay it flat, and I'm just gonna do a couple of circular motions here. Don't need to do it a whole lot, but you see, I'm not doing all of this back end over here. It's just simply not necessary to get all that flat. All right, how are we looking? Not too bad. And I could feel a little bit of a burr still on the end, so I'm gonna work that a little bit more. Now, how do we know that we've done enough? Well, let me show you. I need, found it, a Sharpie. Take a Sharpie. I use red because I have a red one. Let's Sharpie this dude. When you're going through this process, to me, a Sharpie is indispensable. Make sure you have a marker, seriously. A little bit of water on there. Now, I'm gonna take this and let's go. We can see already with this that we removed some of the Sharpie there. We've got some spots there. That means those are lower. And then we can see on the end here, that is the screwed up end that I definitely smashed against the steel. That one needs to be worked a little bit more. Make sure that it is completely flat on the surface, that we're not tilting it this way or tilting it up. That looks really good. We do not need to sharpen the back of this up to 8,000 grit. What I will like to do is take next grit. This one is extra fine. We're just gonna clean it up a little bit so it doesn't have as deep of scratches in the back of this. Some people like to do it this way. This is just a little bit more uncomfortable for me. Chisel is flat. Now we did the fun part, which is sharpening that edge. Let's go back to the rough one, the fine stone. Now we get out the sharpening jig. My chisel is about 3/4 of an inch wide. First thing I'm gonna do is slide this jig together. And again, every jig's a little bit different. And this one has registration marks there for the size. And I can set it about a little over 3/4. All right, and just tighten this down. I can flip this over, put my chisel inside of it, up to the registration pin there that I set at 25 degrees. And whenever that is registered against the edge and then butted up against the metal piece there, I just tighten these brass knobs down. I want to make sure that they're tightened down consistently. I don't want to have one super tight and one loose because I don't want my chisel to be tilted. Slide that off. Now we get to sharpen. We're gonna put it down on our stone so that the blade is flat on that stone, and then we're just gonna go back and forth a couple passes. We don't need a whole lot here. Watch. Already starting to get a sharper bevel there. To ensure that we get it just the way we want, we're gonna get the Sharpie out and we're just gonna mark the edge. Put this thing down and I don't know, 5-10 strokes. Take a look at it. We can see we already removed a whole lot of that marker. We're already getting it sharp. You can see we got a really good edge there, sharpened all the way across. You'll see that we can see all of those lines there from when it was sharpened. It's not polished like this. While it's sharp, the more we polish this edge, the more that edge is gonna hold up over time. So we need it to be pretty shiny. And that's why we're gonna go up in grits. When I flip it over, I can feel a burr now. And that's because the edge there, whenever we sharpen that edge, it sharpened the metal down and that left a little metal burr. Watch what we do with this. I have kind of a bulky jig here, so I'm gonna just elevate this up. If I'm using my sharpening station, it's not a big deal, but I'm gonna put my blade here flat and just make a pass. I'm gonna go to the extra fine. Again, that is the one that's the equivalent to 1200 grit. That looks good. It looks shinier. Double check that we're hitting everything. Quick swipe with the Sharpie. We can see that it's sharpened all the way across and it looks a little bit shinier, right? We don't have as deep gouges in it. Extra fine. This is equivalent of 8,000 grit. It's gonna give that extra polish. We see the edge now is really polished, right? Much shinier than what it was before. The more polished, then the more that edge is gonna hold up. There's a slight burr on the backside. We're gonna take just one little pass off of it, not do very much, and we're gonna call this one sharp. Just a little swipe. That's a sharp edge. That looks good. We could call that sharp. Now you could add a micro bevel on the end of this. I'm not gonna do that yet. I'm gonna show you what that is after all of that, because if I do a micro bevel, I'm gonna have to resharpen things to get rid of it and then show you again. So I'll just do that at the end. Piece of really thick leather. Let's try it out. Not too bad. I might take this sharp chisel and I'm gonna dull it again by smashing it on some steel, resharpen it using the Waterstones, and we can see the difference of those. Water. If we're gonna use whetstones, we gotta soak them in water before we can actually use them. So just take my stone and drop it in there. How long do we let it soak? Basically, I do it until the bubbles stop. That's all air that's inside that stone that's rising to the surface. Oh, I just wait. Our chisel is definitely dull. Now, time to sharpen it. There's a big difference though between diamond stones and water stones. And that is, besides they're a little bit messier, by a little bit, I mean a lot messier. It is that these are soft. You start to sharpen your chisel in the same place for too long, you'll actually put a divot in there, and that's no bueno. So this is what you have to do, is you gotta get a flattening plate of some sort. So like this is a diamond plate, take that, and essentially just flatten your stone. Time to sharpen this guy. Now with the water stone, it can start to dry out pretty quick. So I like to have water. I will constantly dunk it in the water, and I will constantly flatten it. Again, trying not to put too many grooves in this. With the diamond stone, I could go in the same direction the whole time. With the water stone, I wanna move it. I'm gonna do some of it over here on the side. I'm gonna go over to the other side. I'm gonna go at an angle. I'm just constantly moving it around in different places. That way I don't, put a channel right in the middle of this thing. I'm gonna take a Sharpie and mark my edge. Looking good. Now I'm going to flip this over, use the other side because this is a reversible one. After using 8,000 grit, whew, that is a shiny edge. Yeah, that thing, super sharp. How sharp we talking? Paper? Chisel? Ooh. Oh yeah. Where's that leather at? Super thick leather. Let's try it out. It's so sharp it just cuts right through, and I'm trying not to cut my finger behind it. There we go. Oh yeah. Whew. There's one other part of this that you could do, which is called a micro bevel. A micro bevel is when you put a bevel on a bevel. So like we have the one on this chisel, but then imagine a smaller one right down the edge there. So you have a bevel on a bevel. If you buy a sharpening jig and you want to do micro bevels, you got to make sure that it can do that. And in this case, mine does. Usually your jig will have some sort of wheel on it, and then you can adjust that wheel. So in this case, I can turn it and move that wheel up a little bit. By putting that wheel up like that, it's gonna move that chisel at a different angle, and you're gonna put just a tiny little bevel right on the edge. When we do the micro beveling, we don't have to go very much with this. Just a few little swipes, and you can see there's this really tiny shiny part right on that edge, right? That is the micro bevel. Kind of hard to see, but right on that edge, there's a little shiny area right there. That is the micro bevel. Man, a sharp chisel is so awesome. There's one extra trick. This is my favorite. This is a leather strap. It's made from genuine horse butt, and it's amazing. It's flexible, but not too flexible. It's perfect for sharpening your chisels. You could also get some honing compound. One of these green sticks of micro fine compound will last you your entire life, and probably your kids' entire life, and your grandkids. You can just break it up and hand it out. I don't know why it comes in such a big stick that and you can't use it all. What's great about a strop is you can put it right next to your workpiece. As you're working, if you feel that that edge is just not quite as sharp, you can come up here and a couple passes on that strop and boom, you're back in business. For comparison's sake, this is an X-Acto knife with a brand new blade. Okay, here's my leather. My chisel. Not even a comparison. Not even a comparison. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and got some sharp chisels. Big thank you to the superhero community over on Patreon for sponsoring this video, allowing me to do what I do. Until we meet again, get in your shop and build something awesome.